In the top stories, Prime Minister Harris to deliver 2017 budget address on Wednesday. Guyana's opposition calls for a budget withdrawal, and Bolivia's drought prompts a state of emergency. Good afternoon and welcome to the ZIZ Midday newscast. Today's Monday, December 5, 2016. I'm Jason Davis, sitting in for Shaira Flanders. Nationally, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris will deliver the 2017 budget address on Wednesday, December 7, during a special meeting of National Assembly. Dr. Harris's budget presentation is expected to take around 3 hours. According to information out of government headquarters, following the presentation, Parliament will adjourn until the next day, Thursday, when the Leader of the Opposition is expected to respond. All other members will have 90 minutes each to make their presentation, but may have an additional 30 minutes each. Earlier in October, Prime Minister Harris said the fiscal accounts up to September of 2016 recorded a recurrent surplus of $120.3 million, an overall surplus of $124.2 million, and a primary surplus of $141.6 million. The next sitting of National Assembly will begin at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. Health and other government officials gathered at Limekiln Commercial Development on Monday morning for the handing over ceremony of the newly completed Mental Health Day Treatment Center at the Limekiln Commercial Development. This is one of two major developments in the health sector this week. Construction on the Mental Health Day Treatment Center began in February of 2015 and is a joint collaboration between the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and the Caribbean Development Bank through the Basic Needs Trust Fund. The project values in the air of $1.34 million with a contribution from the CDB through the BNTF of $136,322. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis has been witnessing an increase in the number of individuals who are affected by some form of mental illness, and some of the most common causes have been attributed to drug and alcohol abuse, domestic violence and child abuse, and deficiency in coping with other socioeconomic issues. Recognizing the importance of providing access to rehabilitative care and services, the treatment center was added to existing mental health services. Meanwhile, the official opening of the oncology unit at the Joseph N. France General Hospital will take place on Tuesday, December 6 at 9 in the morning. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris and his cabinet are grateful that the Federation has been spared the ravages of a hurricane during the season, which ended on November 30. The government has turned the good fortune of St. Kitts and Nevis into an opportunity to help other countries that were not so fortunate. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris has pledged approximately $1 million to Haiti and the Bahamas as the countries work to rebuild and recover in the wake of Hurricane Matthew. The money will be shared between the two countries on an equitable basis, taking into account the damage and economic health of each member state. The 2016 hurricane season spawned 15 named storms, 7 of which were hurricanes. Hurricane Matthew, the strongest one, devastated Haiti as a Category 4 storm, killing hundreds and displacing thousands of people there, as well as causing extensive damage to housing, public infrastructure, and utilities in parts of the Bahamas.
We are 100 feet up in the air.
Whoa, monkey platter. You know the twit. Do it,
The donkey want water. Bring back your daughter. Bring back your water.
I think the next generation is a great motivator.
I'm not done yet. You know, I'm far from done.
Off a note, please bring your chest. Bring your chest. Bring your chest. Man down.
let it go!
Yo, this is Shaggy, and you're watching the Tony Thorne Show. Yeah, #1, Mr. Lover Sessa. All right.
Tune in.
Yes, we infecting more.
Hi, I'm Carla Burridge. Join me weekdays at 7 p.m. for ZIZ's evening newscast. We'll let you know what's happening in your community.
On the regional scene, Guyana's opposition is calling for the total withdrawal of the early 2017 budget or some serious reconsideration of some of the measures outlined. More in this report from Handel Duncan.
Opposition leader Barry Jagger is not letting up on criticisms relative to the 2017 budget. Jagger shifted blame from the finance minister to the president, saying that the president bears responsibility for the budget.
Now that the president has listened to the many concerns expressed by society, I am urging him to convene his cabinet and have another look at this budget.
The opposition leader wants the president to withdraw the entire budget or take action.
If that is not feasible or not desirable on his part, to examine the concerns of our society and to remove some of the most offensive, oppressive, and measures that will devastate the lives of many poor people.
The opposition did not attend any budget consultations with the government, but now they are willing to collaborate with the government in light of the many public outcries about some of the proposed budgetary measures.
To share our ideas as to how we can achieve the objectives of growing our country, creating incentives for the private sector, and enhancing welfare of ordinary people without implementing these draconian measures.
It was found too that many of the propositions in the budget are not in sync with the ideals of the administration.
And to make a case for it, I can point out how several of the provisions of this budget are offensive and antithetical to stated objectives of the president himself and his government.
Handel Duncan, HGP Nightly News.
After months of planning and anticipation, the first flight from Houston George Bush Intercontinental Airport to Havana departed on Saturday, connecting Cuba to Texas's largest city and United's premier Latin American gateway. United will operate Saturday non-stop flights from Houston in addition to its daily non-stop service from Newark, New York via Newark International Airport. Since the announcement of its preliminary Havana route awards in July, United has been working closely with the Cuban government and local airport service providers to prepare for the start of its operation into the Jose Marte International Airport. United will operate both services with Boeing 737 aircraft. Internationally, Bolivia is going through the worst drought in 25 years. The Bolivian government has declared a state of emergency as thousands of people struggle to cope with the water shortage.
The Inca Chaca reservoir which serves La Paz has been reduced to less than 10% of its capacity. The mountains that surround it should, at this time of the year, be covered with snow. The rain, when it comes, is not enough to alleviate the worst drought anyone here can remember. Marta has had to close her restaurant.
There's no water. We've been waiting, asking those who have water to give us some, and for the authorities to come because we really need it.
Emergency measures are in place to get water to those in need, but it's sometimes not enough, and many are forced to find it where they can.
It's chaos. Without water, we can't do anything. So we've come here to use this stream to wash our clothes.
Rationing means many have running water for only a couple of hours a day, or none at all. We tend to take for granted something as fundamental to our daily lives as water until it runs dry. Many Bolivians are now discovering that every drop counts for washing and cleaning, for cooking and drinking, for recreation and industry, and even for flushing the toilet. The government blames a combination of climate change, waste, poor investment in infrastructure and unusually low rainfall. It's pledged funds to avoid future crises. while this minister says they've also identified where they went wrong.
This was not foreseen, and those responsible have been sacked for their negligence. They have to take responsibility.
Neighbouring countries have promised aid, schools have closed, and hospitals reduced their services. Many say life here can never be the same again, that attitudes must change.
It's very difficult. If you have to live through this, you learn to value water, this liquid vital to life, that we cannot keep wasting.
The water shortages have hit poor and wealthier neighbourhoods. Farmers have lost crops and livestock. Residents are increasingly taking to the streets to demand speedier action, to demand water, the water necessary every day for everyday life. Daniel Schweimler, Al Jazeera, La Paz.
Italy's Prime Minister Matteo Renzi has announced he'll resign in the coming hours after conceding defeat in a national referendum. Exit polls show Italians have rejected his proposals for reforming the constitution.
Defeat was clear from the moment the vote count began.
I have lost, and I say it loud and clear.
The Prime Minister, so confident in his constitutional reforms that he'd staked his job on them, had gambled and lost.
I will call a cabinet meeting and I will thank my colleagues. I will then go to the presidential palace where I will tender my resignation to the president.
By a substantial margin, the country rejected Mr. Renzi's reforms intended to enhance the power of government, to streamline the work of Parliament.
For me, it's a great feeling. It's a sign the country can do it.
This is a big popular victory. This is extraordinary. It demonstrates the love of Italians for the principles of the Constitution.
Some objected to constitutional changes they felt might have opened the door to autocracy. Others voted against the establishment, the ruling elite, encouraged by the populist rhetoric of the rising anti-political Eurosceptic five-star movement.
It is not a victory just of the anti-establishment. There has been a reaction to the attempt to change the situation, the Italian constitution, in a very violent way, arrogant way. So it's a reaction of constitutional patriotism.
At his last campaign rally, Prime Minister Renzi told the crowd they had one last chance to change the future for their children. Well, a short while ago here at Palazzo Chigi in Rome, the Prime Minister's office, he said, "We tried to change the country. We gave the country every chance to change. We didn't make it."
Change was his mantra. But in a country of high unemployment, a low-wage, stagnant economy, with ailing banks in desperate need of investment, too many have seen no change. Italy lost confidence in him. With the resulting uncertainty, financial markets may lose confidence in Italy. What happens next, who governs next, will affect not just Italians, but all of Europe as well. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, Rome.
And now for a look at today's weather. Present weather is fair with a gentle breeze of 12 miles per hour from the north-northeast. Seas are slight with waves of up to 4 feet. The weather forecast predicts sunny to partly sunny conditions today with a chance of a light and brief localized shower, and fair to partly cloudy conditions tonight with a chance of another light and brief localized shower. Sunset today will be at 5:36 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:27 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jason Davis.